Today's lesson is a grammar lesson that a lot of people have been asking about, so I thought this would be a very good topic for a video. We're going to look at the situation where you're using a be verb, am, is, are, was, were, etc., plus an infinitive verb, but especially a be verb plus a be verb. So am to be, was to be, were to be, etc. But I'll show you that it doesn't have to be the be verb only, but we can use it with. So you can have am to be, is to have, was to take, and so on. So I'm going to, before I get into the examples, there are a couple of things that you must realize when we're using this structure. First of all, we're making a statement. And we're talking about the future. But not always. Sorry, we're going to do small. When we're using a present be verb first, we're talking about future plans. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing. You have to remember that. It's always about future plans or arrangements. Or to give instructions. Or orders. For example, a boss would give orders to his employees, to his staff. So when we're using the present verb, we're talking about the future. When we're using the past verb, it's a different situation, and I'll show you examples of that in a moment. So Linda is to be transferred to the New York office next week. So I'm making a statement. This is what is going to happen. She is going to be transferred. But instead of saying she is going to be, I can just say she is to be. It's a little bit more formal, a little bit more emphatic, like it has a bit of more emphasis because it's a very strong statement. And that's why you have to remember it's a statement. I'm not asking, I'm not suggesting, I'm saying exactly what's going to happen, right? So she is to take over the sales department. That is the plan. So this could be like an order, this could be like a plan, but either way, it's a statement about the future. Now notice here that I'm using the be verb as part of a passive. She is to be transferred by me, the boss, right? But she is to go to the New York office. That's fine too. Both are okay. Different connotation, different suggestion of what the order is. Jim, but here's where you'll see the difference. Jim, you are to be in charge until I get back. So we can also use a be with a passive or just with a situation, just like a regular, any other regular situation where you're using a be verb. But if I say, Jim, you are in charge until I get back. Jim, you are to be in charge until I get back. What's the difference? If I use without to be, it means right now. Jim, you are in charge. Now, I'm going out. Jim, you are to be in charge. So next week, I will go to California for a business trip. While I'm gone, Jim, you are going to be in charge. Jim, you are to be in charge, right? So that's very, very important to understand. Future, present, with to be or without to be. Okay, so now we're going to look at the past situation, which is very different. And you have to somehow understand what is happening. Sophie was to deliver the keynote speech at the conference. So again, there was a plan. She was supposed to. And this is a key word you have to remember, supposed to. Something was supposed to happen. Something should have happened. But it didn't. And that's the key to this situation. Unrealized. Or the unknown results. Oops. So two things can happen here. Sorry. One, what was supposed to happen, what was planned, didn't happen. Or what was planned, we're not sure if it happened or not. That's the key to using past be verb, was, were, plus an infinitive. So Sophie was to deliver the keynote speech, but did she? I don't know. Or something happened, there was a bit of a mix-up and she wasn't able to get onto the stage to give the speech. By the way, if you're curious, keynote speech, that's the main speech, the highlight speech of the conference. The troops were to be withdrawn from the border. Now, usually when you have a sentence using were to be, was to be, etc., or was to whatever verb, usually you will have a but clause or a second sentence explaining why it didn't happen. The troops were to be withdrawn, and again, I'm using a passive here, from the border, but the general changed his mind and sent them forward instead. So going back to that one I looked at a second ago, Jim was to be in charge, but none of the staff listened to him. Now, if again I take it out, Jim was in charge, this is a very straightforward past situation. It happened, he was in charge, and he did a very good job. Or, but none of the staff listened to what he said. It doesn't matter. He was in charge officially, but nobody listened to him. Or he was in charge and he did a good job. So what comes after can be anything. But as soon as you add the to be, right away you have an unrealized situation. It didn't happen. So Jim was to be in charge. You can only follow it with a but to show the contrast, to show why he actually was not in charge. Okay? So it's actually a very simple structure, be plus infinitive. If you remember, present be, future plan, past be, unrealized plan. And that's the only thing that you need to know. And again, a little bit more formal use. There are other ways to express all of these ideas, but if you want to emphasize something or be a little bit more formal, especially in writing, then you can do that. You can use this. In spoken, not so much, not as commonly used or heard. Okay? Now, you can go to EngVid.com and take the quiz. Make sure you understand how to use this structure and understand the context of the sentence. And don't forget to ask questions if you have any. And if you like the video, give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and come back soon for more grammar, vocab, other types of interesting lessons. See you then. Bye-bye.